this is International Biodiversity Day, and we are very glad to be a humble part of the plan with several of our domestic and international partners. Hello, my name is Christine Diepenbrock. I am an assistant professor in plant sciences here at UC Davis, and we are here on the west side of campus in plant reproductive biology.
So why is biodiversity important, especially relating to food?
Yes, so there are a large number of crop species that are being consumed daily by human beings. And of course, there are regional preferences for which of those species we're eating, and then which market classes or types within those species we most prefer. And it's very important for us as plant breeders as well that we have access to this biodiversity in case there are useful traits present there, whether it's disease resistance, nutritional quality, visual appearance of the crop, etc. That could give rise to an improved product that people would enjoy and seek out, and it would be really profitable and beneficial for producers as well.
Can you describe a bit about your work?
So we're working on a few different crop species in our lab. Among the largest groups on which we're working are grain legumes. And so we have a few different grain legumes in which we have active research. And this includes common bean, which is Phaseolus vulgaris, and also lima bean, which it turns out is in the same genus as common bean but a different species, and those two cannot be crossed with each other, and so we need to look for useful diversity within each of those species and some of their respective close relatives to see if we can find, again, useful traits that give rise to the diversity that we know and love in our food supply, and honestly for ecosystem services and the planet as well.
Why does your work matter to biodiversity?
Yeah, I mean, conservation is inherently important as well, and there have been really excellent efforts to conserve biodiversity, not only out in the wild where it's found, but also in gene banks, where we can take a lot of this diversity and make sure that it is stored and preserved in conditions that are conducive to long-term maintenance. Now, a lot of these stocks, for instance, for seed, won't last forever. So there's an excellent USDA National Plant Germplasm System for many of these crops that are doing really hard work to propagate and maintain these stocks on a regular basis. They work through their different collections to make sure all of it is propagated fairly recently.
Why would you say this is important to AIFS's goals?
So I've been thinking a fair bit about the goals with nutrition and consumer health. Again, a lot of the nutrients that we care about, there can be natural variation for them in kind of our modern latest breeding germplasm, but sometimes if there's traits we would really like to improve, there are additional materials that happen to be really having favorable levels and favorable regions of their genome that could give rise to even better values of these traits. So useful variation, I guess, is the theme here. But I would also say with regards to supply chain resiliency and that type of thing, as climates are changing, we do have emerging stressors, for instance, new diseases or new strains of diseases that could arise. And sometimes we have to look pretty hard to find natural sources of resistance to these. And by natural, I mean existing already in the gene pool. And so again, sometimes it can be helpful to go into crop wild relatives. And this is the case as well, where we can look at related species that, for instance, became domesticated or adapted to different climatic regions. For instance, we work on common bean and tepary bean, which can be crossed with each other. It's a little bit difficult, but it's possible. And the tepary bean is more drought and heat tolerant than common bean. So we have a project where we're trying to effectively, there's a population that's been developed where we're trying to test which regions of the genome from that tepary bean actually can confer, if any, the drought and heat tolerance to common bean, which is widely consumed by humans.